Welcome to Start Making. I'm Mark, and today we're going to show you how to make parametric wall art. This is parametric wall art, and the concept was shown to me by a good friend of mine who put me onto a website on Etsy that sold the plans. I didn't have a CNC machine, so I decided I would make my own. Really simple. You'll see in the rest of the build how we get on, and I am not exaggerating when I say anybody out there with a little bit of experience and a jigsaw could make one of these. If you keep watching, I'm going to show you how to turn one of these into 4 with only a few extra cuts and a little bit of extra sanding. A lot of extra sanding, but still only a little bit of extra cuts. I have been so excited about this project since I even began thinking that I might start a YouTube channel. This project really sums up what we're doing and what I'm trying to achieve, in the sense that I don't think I've seen anybody make one of these by hand.
Using my limited computer skills, I did manage to get the templates down to a correct size for what I needed. Then all I had to do was cut the boards down to a solid width of 40 centimeters across, and then I can cut each of the individual templates from there. Now, they normally come in a different format for a CNC machine, so you will have to adjust the templates minorly.
And that's it. Then I should end up with 21 slats, all with slightly different patterns on them, that I can put together to make a really cool bit of wall art. What I'm going to do when I put these onto the board to cut around them, I'm actually going to add a bit to the back. So the pattern will stay exactly the same, but I'm going to move them to make them a little bit wider. So in effect, you will just have a thicker piece of wood coming off. I'm using more wood, but I think it's going to give it a better effect. You'll see less wall behind it, because each of these slats is going to be apart by an unspecified amount that I haven't decided yet till I've cut them out. First thing, I'm going to take the plywood down to the width of each one of these templates. Now, originally, I thought if I line them up really close and work my way down, I could squeeze all of these into one piece of plywood, wasting as little as possible. I did have a bit of a brainwave, which is rare, but I had a bit of a brainwave where I thought, well, actually, if I space them out more, and if I space them out on a regular amount so that it's the same each time, what I'm left with is the offcut. Now, sure, it's not the same pattern, but it will be the inverse of the pattern we're cutting out. So I could, in effect, by doing the same amount of cutting, I can make 2. And then I had another brainwave, and I thought, well, actually, the jigsaw I've got is more than capable of going through 2 sheets of this in one cut. I believe. We're going to give it a try, because I think what I might do is actually clamp 2 pieces together, because then again I'm doing the same cut, just one cut, and out of one cut I'm getting 2 of these and 2 of the inverse. So for the same amount of work, cut-wise, I'm going to get maybe 4 different bits of wall art, or 2 bigger bits. I don't know yet. And don't forget to stick around to the end to see all 4 pieces put together, including the double mystery from the offcuts, and see how it turned out.
As this is the first big project I've used the jigsaw for, I decided to do a couple of quick test cuts first, checking on the right blade and whether it could get through 2 pieces of the plywood easily enough. I was happy enough with the results, so then we got to marking. As I was using quite a rough piece of plywood, I found it easier to take the rough edges off, and I popped some blue tape down as well, so the cuts that I would make wouldn't fray the veneer any further, so I'd get a nice clean strip. A quick sand and we were ready to go with the templates.
I mentioned earlier that we need a little bit of extra depth for these templates that I've cut out, and so what I've done is I've set the depth on my square to 2 centimeters, 20 mil. I think that's going to be the bit I'm going to add on to each of these templates. So what I can do is hold it against the edge of the wood, make sure that the template is pushed in and touching. What I can do then is I can draw the line that we're going to cut.
After the jigsaw cut line was drawn in, I then figured out the distance to the circular saw cut line, where I would then cut off the offcut that was left in order to make the third and fourth pieces of wall art.
I'm going to clamp these two pieces not only to each other, but I'm going to clamp them to the bench as well, so it's all nice and sturdy.
Due to the sheer amount of cuts that we're doing here, I definitely needed earbuds, and because we're still in the small shed, a dust mask is vital.
I'm just going to get all of these pieces cut off. After each one, as I say, I'm going to slice it with the circular saw, so each time I come back the piece is going to get shorter and shorter, and then eventually we're going to have a few of these cut. Now, we didn't get very far there before I had to stop, but once I got round the top of that corner to bring it back round, the blade, it was really struggling to come round. So I think what I need to do, one, is move faster, just commit to it, and if we're slightly off the line, well, these are all different. Every single piece of this is different to create a flowing pattern. I can sand off the burn, that's not a problem. What I don't want to do is to linger too long that it just completely ruins what I'm cutting. So you can see the burning. That's I'll be able to sand it off. It's not a damage to the wood that we can't work with. You can see the cheap plywood with lots of gaps missing. Again, we can fill that. The biggest thing that occurred while we were doing it is that I lost the line. I lost it on the other piece on this one cut by a good 3 or 4 mil. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this. I think if I tried to get it so that it was absolutely perfect, I think I'm going to end up driving myself crazy, because this is the difference between having the CNC machine and using the jigsaw. And on the positive, what we do have is 2 pieces identical.
I learned the hard way that you need to number each of your pieces. Number them in the same spot as well, so you know which order they go in and which part is the top.
Okay, on with the next step. And it's just a case of repeat. Basically, get the template lined up, 2 centimeters in, 2 centimeters in on both sides. I'm just going to mark along the template. And then obviously we're going to mark off where we're going to slice it off afterwards. And we're ready to cut again. So it is a really quick transition. It's been probably 4 minutes since I did the last cut. Let's get started and do another cut on the slow speed, and we can always adjust it if that's even worse. We can always adjust it up to the faster speed, maybe it'll get around better. But let's try it and see if that makes any difference. I got so close to the line around those tight corners by adjusting the speed to the lowest to 0 for a lot slower. I did kick it up for the end because it was going noticeably slower, and I'm quite an impatient kind of guy. And now I can just go through and repeat. Okay, so I thought I'd give you a quick update. We're halfway through. I've cut half of the slats that are going to make up the original on design piece. And then I'm left with the offcuts, which are the random piece that we're going to have left over as well. What we need to do is get the burn marks off this edge. We need to just take the sharp edges off it. I got burn on all of them. There was no avoiding that. It was just turning such a tight circle or a tight curve with the blade. It kept burning the wood as it went. So there's no avoiding it. We're just gonna have to see how easy it is to take it off. I'm gonna try and do it by hand. What we are gonna use though, which I'm pretty excited about, is the Moxon vise that we made in the last video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a piece set up in it, and I'm gonna start sanding it down, and let's see how easy it is to do it.
I got everything set up in the Moxon vise, and then starting with 100 grit sandpaper, went over it once, got the worst of the burning off, and then just finished it on 150. What I should have done is the wood filler first. So if you're watching this thinking about doing your own, fill the gaps in the plywood first and then do your sanding. As you can see, all the burn marks have come away. It's
good to break up the tasks because this is a very repetitive project, so it's really good to do a bit of a mix and a match. I have cut half, and of that half I've sanded a quarter. But what I wanted to do, I started casually laying them out on a table, and actually the form started coming together. So I wanted to do a video about something that's I think it's quite important in woodwork, especially if you've taken that first step, you've started making, which is half the battle straight away. Often there's a demoralising time, and I think it's important to look at something like this and just go, you know what I'm doing is going to look great, regardless of whether it's going to be perfect or not, it's going to look great. And this has given me an extra step now to cut out the last pieces and add them to this, and I'm going to have this one, I'm going to have another one identical to this, and I'm going to have a mystery too from the cuts that I haven't done.
I realise at this stage it would be a dull video if I showed you every single cut, every single sand for all 84 slats that we need to do. So here's a quick montage to get us through to the next stage.
So far I have cut half, I've cut all, but I've sanded half of what we've got to get through. I showed you as I was sanding away the burn marks with the hand sander. I just wanted to update you on what I've found that works the best. I don't have an orbital sander, right? Anybody's got a random orbital sander, that is the best way from getting the burn marks off the end grain. And then all I've done is hand sand just to break the corners. But because I don't have that, I've been using this, my trusty drill with my spinning disc. It's a brutal way of doing it, so you have to be a little bit careful not to change the actual shape of the piece. But if you go carefully, it is so much quicker than hand sanding, and I think these discs are like £10, £15 or something, and as long as you've got a fairly heavy duty drill, which this one is, a bit of a workhorse, then it gets through it so much quicker. And when you've got 20, 40, 60, 80 slats to do, you do want to try and make your life as easy as possible. I've also cut a strip. Now this is what holds them to the wall. I've made this approximately an inch in width, just the same 1/4 inch stock plywood from before. Now what the template suggested was that you cut a notch about an inch or so in from the top and the bottom of the piece for each one, and then they will sit on the rail at the back in their positions, and it will keep them sturdy. That's 160 notches to do this batch. I don't see any issue with just screwing them to the back and being done with it. If you're happy doing that, do it. I'm going to try doing the notches on just one, and I will see if it's worth it. Next job is to mark out the notches that we're going to do on this. I'll clear all this out of the way and then we can get cracking. What we're going to do now is just mark the notches that we need to cut out. Just clamp the back rail to use as an indicator, because what I'm going to do is hold the pieces up against it, and then on the bench I've clamped a small piece of oak. I've cut the oak to 2/3 of the depth of the rail. When these are mounted onto the rail will sit just into the piece, holding it in place, but the piece won't go too deep, so it won't hit the wall. This will be attached to the wall of the bar, but the piece won't. Hold each slat against it and then mark around it. And then you can see I've marked what I need to cut out. And then if I flip the board, because it's got to be one top, one bottom, so that's going to be the quickest way of marking each and every one of these pieces. What I was going to do is just cut the lines in first, see how easy that becomes. Now I've left a tiny bit of give, so just a couple of mil, so that when I'm putting them on I can just adjust it to make sure all the tops are flush, so it just gives me enough. I can tell you one other thing while we're here, is that I am not going to do 160 of these. I'm going to find another way to do the other ones. That's 2 cut out, 2 down, and by my estimate for this one, 40 to go. 21, all done. I think that only took me about 35 minutes. We're going to see, probably for the first time, the finished piece. What I'm going to do is just lay them out, because we need to figure out where best and how wide the spacing's going to be. Whatever. Maybe we just leave it like that. I'm really happy with how that's come out. I think the spacing on that is good as well, because I don't want it to be a huge piece all spread out. I think whatever we've got there, sometimes you just got to follow your instinct, and that's where I laid them out, and that seems to be where it looks good. I think 1.5. Yeah, why not? Come on. Not a bad piece of art in itself. Okay, so there's just a couple of things I want to show you. The first one is just a little hack that I did when I was taking the burn marks off this. I've been using this solidly for this job. So what I do, and this is by no means a recommendation, I take one big clamp, find a sturdy part of the drill, and I clamp it to the table. And that's now not going anywhere. And then I've got this smaller clamp, which I use to clamp the trigger. And that will basically mean that the disc is spinning all the time. I recommend you don't do it, but I'm going to be doing it just to clear up some of the rough edges. I've learned now not to do it in the shed because it does kick up a huge amount of dust, so I will be doing that exact setup on a sawhorse so that I can keep all the dust outside, still be wearing my mask. The next thing we need to do for the finishing touches, as you can see, like all plywood, this has got a few missing bits. We're just going to rub a little bit of wood filler in, and then once that's dry we can again sand that off as well. So I just wanted to take a little break in this video in a usual spot where you'd probably get adverts or sponsorships, just to say I'm at the stage where I'm just starting out. Depending on what order we release the videos, this is number 2 and the first really difficult build, if you like. I'm self-sponsored, I guess is the best way of putting it, because until I have a certain amount of subscribers I can't get any sponsorship on these videos. Great for you guys because you only have to watch a very quick me talking about not having sponsorship as opposed to getting adverts, but eventually I would like to put some adverts in just because then I can commit more time to this and get more projects out. Anyway, back to the project. Okay, so where we're at now, we've got all of our pieces have been cut. As you've seen, they've had the notch taken out the back. I've given them a sand up to 240 grit. I did it all on my drill attached to the sawhorse outside. I just managed to run this through, taken off. We've done the wood filler, it's taken off all of the wood filler. The next thing we need to do is we need to evenly space them. Now we've got the runner across the top and we've got the runner across the bottom. I'll come in a little way so I won't use the very end of it, but then from there I'm going to draw around one of my pieces, just do 2 lines. Then I've got a spacer block, so I'm going to hold that against where the piece is and then draw another line. And I'm just going to go all the way along until I've got 21 lines drawn, and then from there I'm going to use a square and I'm going to take the first line that I draw, hold the square against it and transfer it to the bottom. I'm just going to quickly number these so I know where I'm at. I'm just going to take the bigger square, start in the middle here, and I'm just going to put my pencil on that line, make sure that it matches, and then I'm just going to move the ruler up to it and then draw the line. That is, where is it? There we go, all the markings on there, if you can see them. Next thing I need to do is drill. I'm just going to use a drill bit with a countersink attachment. Alright, that's 21 holes, all countersunk. That's the first one. The second one to do. What we need to do now, because we're drilling into the side of the pieces here, if you don't pre-drill it, it will split. There's not enough material on either side of the screw to hold the screw in, and also you're putting a screw that is a couple of mil thick into nothing, no hole, so it's just going to push it apart to get in, because there's so many different right angles you need to get. You need to have, when you're pre-drilling and screwing, you put two of the battens upright, clamp them to the table. Then, while I was drilling the first, at least this one was keeping the batten at the right height. So that stopped one of the problems. Then I held my square against the batten at the back and the piece that I'm putting onto it, made sure it was squared, quickly drilled it, quickly put a screw in it. Then you can slide it under, pop it into place, and there's not as many moving parts. Once it's drilled, as long as the drill is going in straight, then the screw will hold it in that same hole. I'm going to work my way along and get all of the pieces all the way along, drilled and screwed, and then do the same with the bottom row, and then let's see what we've got at the end of it. I just wanted to have a bit of a look at it, just to see. Oh yes, you see that? That is coming together really nicely. Now I'm just going to work my way down and finish the last ones, one at a time. So I'm going to see if I can go all the way down, just drilling, and then all the way down, screwing. So straight, before I lift it up and show, I'm just going to take a flush cut saw and just take off the edges. When the light catches it, it's so effective. Two things left to do. I haven't sanded it on the sides, and I want to just do a bit of a round over on each of the slats. Before I finish these, I'm going to put them all together and then finish them all in one. This is why you start making, because you can be astonished by what actually comes out the other side. So if there's a project you've been thinking about at this stage, if there's anything that you thought, yeah, I could do it, but I haven't got the tools or I haven't got the space, just clear a little bit of space, just try it. Just try the first bit of it. You never know, that might inspire you to carry on, and then one bit turns to two and two bits turn to 21 slats. And before you know it, without a CNC machine, you made a cool bit of art. So now it's together, I'm just giving it one last dust, just to make sure that none of the little bits of dust off my workbench have got on there. I'm lazy. For something this tight together, so I've got to get in between each of the slats, you can't beat spraying it. I'm going to take it outside because lacquer is very potent, it's not good for you, so I'm going to spray it outside. It's quite a warm day. I reckon a coat of this is going to dry in about 5-10 minutes. So I'm going to be able to rattle through all of the other coats while I'm setting up the next project. So there you have it. They've been lacquered, sanded, lacquered again, and this is the original design. As I said, you get 4 for the price of 1 with this, because this was the original one we made. This was the one that was sat beneath it for all of the cuts that we didn't see at any stage during the build. Put them together, have them separate, totally up to you what you do with them. And let's check out the one in the house. And there's the second one. That is what we were left with. That is the scrap from making the original. And this is the best angle I can get at it, but it looks absolutely awesome. Back to the shed. All this came about just from start making, just from that one mantra. Just throw yourself into it, start cutting, start making sawdust, start throwing the pieces together, and before you know it, you've got something that you can be truly proud of. Get them at the right angle with the light above onto one side, and they are absolutely superb pieces of art. If you've enjoyed the build and you want to see more, please pop a like, give me any comments you want down below and I'll reply, I'll read them all, and subscribe. That is so important to me. As you've known through all of this video, I've got no sponsorship at the moment because we are just starting out. The quicker I can get subscriptions, the quicker that I can make more videos and commit more time to this. I've had a blast. Thank you so much for watching.